it's just really relevant. And so many people hear the same thing where it's, you know, you hear one thing like, oh, this is the truth, this is the thing. And then someone else is like, actually, that's not true, this is a thing. And then there's like a bunch of different opinions from a bunch of different sides. And it's like, okay, but what is
or you just hear someone saying, no, this is the thing, here's the truth. And there is no room for argument because they're absolutely convinced about that. But then you ask them, no, but why? Where did you learn that? What's the evidence you have? And there is no evidence, right? Because it's just a belief system. It's almost like Chinese whispers. You know, they heard something once, one time from somewhere, that, you know, whatever, and it magically became fact, right? And for whatever reason, unfortunately, there's so many people who somehow what they believe gets rooted into their identity. So if you question something that is you think it's an inconsequential belief, like this is not a you know, adjust your whole life around it kind of belief system. We're talking about like a misnomer belief, like, you know, like onions are bad for, like garlic is bad for dogs, right? This is not a belief system that should shake your world, right, to let go of, but people will hold on to it and be totally offended that you have questioned that to the point. Go ahead.
I feel like nutrition in general, not just for humans, but for animals too, for pets, is like people like, they wrap their whole identity around that, right? Like raw feeding versus kibble, vegan versus paleo versus keto. Like people will live and die by whatever their identity is. And when several months ago, we had a scare with Peanut and we had to take her into the emergency room. She ended up being fine, but we had to take her in and, you know, they're asking questions. And I was honestly hesitant to tell them that she eats raw because I felt like they were going to like make what her issue, which had nothing to do with that. I felt like they were going to try to blame it on raw feeding. Like, like I see this a lot with clients who eat a plant-based diet. Like, oh, well, you have this because it's plant-based, right? Like this kind of fear around that. Or for folks who are overweight, or for folks who have obesity, they go to the doctor, they have a specific problem, and it's because of your weight. And it's like, well, hold on, right? So that was kind of my fear, was like, if I tell them, like, are they gonna, anyway. But
healthy protocols and practices are often used as a scapegoat for a medical practitioner who doesn't understand that modality, doesn't understand nutrition. Now, most GPs, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is not my so-called area, but most GPs, as far as I know, do not study nutrition.
No.
The same as vets do not study nutrition. You may get 3 hours of module in there somewhere in 6 years of undergrad veterinary science, right? But you can't say, that's like saying I looked at a puddle for 3/4 of an hour while it was raining and now I'm an expert on puddles, right? It's just like, no, you're not. So I mean, the food thing is just huge though, because people will draw swords over it. You know, I mean, it's like, why are we so emotionally connected to this thing? I know food's important, but I don't know. Maybe you've got more insights on that, but it always baffles me.
Well, that's the thing, I feel like no one worries about it when you're doing the normal unhealthy nutrition things.
Of course not. Because you're not a danger to anyone, right?
As soon as you start making healthy changes, it's like when I went plant-based years ago, everyone's like, oh my God, where do you get your protein? Like, okay, first of all, I was not eating a great diet before that. So like no one was concerned about what was happening at that point. But second of all, so where do I get my protein? Do you know what my protein needs are? What are my protein needs? What are your protein needs? Where do you get your protein? Like most people just have no idea even what they're actually talking about, but they kind of just like regurgitate. And I think it comes from a place of fear. I think most people are fearful, you know, whether it's Peanut at the vet or, you know, someone else wrote about my proteins. I feel like people just have a lot of fear around, but like, what if this is the norm and you're doing something different, so that must be bad. But it's like, why aren't we questioning the norm? But then people get so tied to one side or the other. And the way that it's defended is often very emotional, which is fine, right? I get super emotional when I get really worked up when we do these. But my point, the kind of downfall of that is people stick by it because of the emotional attachment versus what is actually the science behind it and the evidence behind it. And I think that's the problem, because you can have a conversation with people saying, great, let's talk about it. Why is raw feeding bad for dogs, right? For someone who's anti-raw. And a lot of times it's just like blanket statements, and it's just not, it's like, hey, clearly you haven't looked into this. And then is it my job to now educate you, right? And I think that's for folks listening, like, if I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like, do I now provide this person with education, even though I'm not like the healthcare provider, right? Especially when you're talking to someone who's supposed to be an expert in the field. Like, let me have an argument with my vet real quick, right? Like,
it used to be, right, back in the good old days, you could have a conversation with anybody about anything apart from like death, taxes, and religion or something. I don't know. There were three things that money, death, and religion. I think those were the three. So as long as you just steered clear of those three things, you were fine. Anyone could talk about anything. Now, oh my gosh, the polarization thing has just crippled people's ability to dialogue and to be open-minded, to listen to another point of view, and to hear the merits in that, rather than have this natural inclination to murder an idea just because, you see this in politics all the time. Politics used to be, or let's hope it once was, this thing of let's try and govern a sensible society, right, with kind laws that don't need to overreach but protect people, right? Surely that's good, right? And now it's like, it doesn't matter what this politician says. If someone on the other side hears it, they go, well, they're wrong. They haven't listened to where the merits might be. There may be an ideological route that is different, right? But the outworking could be a great result, but nobody gives you credit for the outworking and the good intention. They just attack, right? And we do the same thing in all of our dialogue. Well, no, so often there's so much of that now, where we cannot listen to hear the merits of something and the reasons for something, and then take a breath to say, tell me why you believe that. Where was that paper that you saw? What science did you read about that? Who's like old wives' tale did you hear that, there's a propensity for us to put science on this pedestal, right? I was having a conversation about this over the weekend around a barbecue of all things, that you've got the whole world here, right? This is what's in existence, okay? And there are multiple disciplines in that existence. You've got science to understand the natural world. You've got history to understand the past. You've got literary studies to understand the written word and meaning and stuff in that. Right now, if you try and apply a learning modality or an understanding or comprehension modality to a discipline that it's not designed to understand, then you cannot interpret it properly. Imagine if I approach zoology, right, using the practices of literary interpretation, right? I am not going to then have a conclusion to my hypothesis, because I've used a literary technique to understand a scientific question. So you have to use the right modality for the right question. So when you're looking at understanding the physical world as we know it, which is a section of the entire thing of everything, right, over here, then we would like to use the scientific method to understand it, because we can set it up in such a way as we remove as many variables as possible, and we control for those that we're aware of. We make a null hypothesis and a non, and you to go through step by step. Can that experiment then be replicated by somebody else and get the same result? What do we see? And so that's how you understand those questions. Yeah. So if you're trying to solve a scientific question, that's a method to use. But at the end of the day, it is not even the only method to understand, because nothing really stands in isolation, because your biology or your animal's biology or zoology, right, let's look at the health functioning side of that scientific question, is interwoven into your personality, your lifestyle, your culture, and all of these questions are not addressed properly by the scientific method. Those things are best understood by looking through another lens. So you've got to have a multidisciplinary understanding of a problem or a question to get a full and proper answer of it. You can't just put science on one pedestal and say everything else has to use science to understand it. But when we do need to use science, we have to make sure it's rigorous science. It's not just a study of 5 examples, right? Or that it was funded by the company that wants to get a particular answer, so it's a vested interest. Or that, it wasn't peer reviewed and analyzed correctly, or if it wasn't controlled properly, or whatever else. Like, you've got to make sure that the science is rigorous and that you're using the method to understand the question.
We got a couple of comments when you were talking. Someone said #truth.
Yes.
So I know these cool humans, so I'm glad to hear you think that we're cool. We're a little bit nerdy, in case you guys haven't noticed.
Yeah, that was a bit of a nerdy spiel just there. Sorry, guys.
I think you hit on something really important. What you said is we can't even have dialogue about it. And that's really what's key, and that's really what's missing, is when we tie ourselves to an identity of something that we can't have a dialogue about it if we get too attached to it. I know for me, I really make an effort to listen to perspectives that are different than the ones that I currently hold about different, like, for example, the whole cholesterol debate, for example, right? Like, it's important to me to listen to both sides, whether I believe in one side or the other side, right? And what I'm referring to, for people who are listening, like, what you're talking about, they're like, oh, is saturated fat good? Like, should we eat butter or should we not eat butter, right? Like, no matter what I'm kind of attaching, what I'm looking at the research, and I'm like, okay, this seems like the truth. It's important to still look at the other side for me, because my views do change. Absolutely. And I think that that's really important whenever you're a scientist or a clinician, or if you're just generally preaching about or talking about beliefs about anything that has a scientific component. And if we get too emotionally attached to one side or the other and our identity's wrapped in it, it's really hard to do that. And then you can't ever change your opinion, right? Because you're then changing your whole identity. And that's where the issue comes in. And I have no problem raising my hand and saying there are plenty of things that I've changed my mind about after looking at the evidence on both sides and hearing different people's interpretation. When I say different people, I mean people who are experts, right? Who know how to interpret this. I'm not talking about like, social media, whatever. People who are looking at it and interpreting it in different ways, because there is kind of this gray area and things are open to interpretation when you look at, thousands of studies and all of that. So, and I think that's something that we also, I know that's something we also try to do in our summits, right? Is bring in people with different perspectives. And we've had plenty of people who disagree on little things. I mean, at the root, I think they're all pretty much in line with the foundations, right? Like, we've never had someone come on and be like, actually, kibble is really best, and here's why, right? Like, everyone's saying raw feeding's best. But then you have some people who are more like, okay, we should be measuring. And other people are like, we don't really need to measure so much. Or other people say plants should take up this percentage or this percentage, right, of a dog's bowl. But at the foundation, it's pretty similar. So having those different perspectives and different experts coming together from their unique kind of background and chiming in on something like nutrition, or we've been talking about dental health in the membership this month, and we have different people coming at it from different sides saying, this is my take, this is my take, this is my take. And then if you're a listener, for folks who are in the membership, you can kind of parse together what makes the most sense for you and for your pets.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of like a dialogue in that way.
And being open-minded. I mean, when I started my journey not into science, because that was before, I was 3 when I started science, right? But when it came to the medicine side of things, I had a problem to solve. I had no idea I was going to take this pathway and run with it over the number of years that I had. But when I started, I thought I'll just take a month out time out 1 month. I'll go and research this stuff and get some answers because I need some answers. And I was like, I'm going to go in with no barrier, literally no preconceived notions. Nothing is a ridiculous answer or a ridiculous possibility. I'm going to consider every single thing on its merits and its effectiveness and whether it meets the criteria of things that I'm looking for. And as a result of that, I discovered modality after therapy, after technique, after protocol, after, natural product that I never knew existed because I went in with an open mind. Yeah. Does it heal the animal? Is it safe to the animal? Is it kind to the animal? Right? And can I give it to more than one species? And every time I found one of those things, I was like, okay, great. And that's one thing on my list now that I can use for healing because it works and it's safe. And I knew nothing about. But if I'd come in, because I grew up with that allopathic model, right? I'm a product of Western, culture too, right? My grandparents, medical doctors and surgeons, right? Every piece of paraphernalia in the house, like a pen and a notepad and a sticker on the magnet in the fridge, whatever, drug companies stuff all over it, right? Because the drug companies are sponsoring you. Now, that was my normal growing up. I never questioned it. I just thought it was a pain that these ugly logos were all over the nice things, right, as a kid, right? But I was very steeped in that environment. And so if I had brought that into this quest with me, I wouldn't have gotten very far because I would have just said, well, these things aren't science or they're not proven or they're not normal or they're not, right? But because they do work and I went in with an open mind, this entire thing is now possible and thousands and thousands of animals are being healed, not just by the work that we're doing or I'm doing, but by other vets and other experts who are working with this stuff. So the open mind is the key to freedom. It really is. And if you shut that down, then you're going to end up, almost fossilizing yourself with a belief cage around you that stops you from growing.
Yeah. That's a really good, I love the way that you said that you end up fossilizing yourself because some people some experts, practitioners who don't value continuing education. And to me, that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem because not only are you not staying kind of up to date with what's continuing to happen, but if you're not continuing to educate yourself, then you're getting more and more and more solidified in your one little area versus
what you learned 20 years
ago. Exactly. Versus branching out and again, looking at different perspectives and having that open mind. And I mean, there's so much out there. I feel like, a lot of people listen to music and in their free time. And I can't. Have we talked about this before? I can't listen to music. I have to listen to, this is silly when I say have to, it's not like a compulsion, but it kind of is. I listen to lectures and I listen to scientific audiobooks and I listen to I'm in the middle of a 20-hour lecture on physiology of different types of exercise and nutrition supplementation. I'm why am I even but that to me is what, I don't know. I mean, I know that's something you and I share, when we were coming up with kind of what are the core principles of pet and parent longevity. That was something that you and I were both yes, continuing education and continuing to be humble to the information that's out there. And I don't just mean double-blind placebo-controlled trials. I mean, hearing from other practitioners. I mean, listening to people. I mean, right? This information comes from a lot of different places and we have to be also open-minded to that as well.
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, science has its protocol of the scientific method to resolve a question that is unknown, that is being asked about the physical world. Things that we can touch, smell, measure, taste, all that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But the scientific method works great when you've got statistical models of huge size. It doesn't work very well when you've got small sample sizes. So that's when anecdotal and historical account and multiple eyewitness accounts from practitioners is just as valid Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to resolve is a question, right? What is the answer to this question? And this is one way of asking it. This is another way of asking it. And they both come to an agreement about it. We go, well, they're both valid ways of looking at that. This one works great when you've got 10,000 in a study. This one's great when you've got 4, right? Now we don't have to lose data by just, eliminating one thing or another.
We have some comments coming through when I said about listening to like lectures and stuff. Jennifer responded and said, "Me too." We have some similarly minded people in our community, which is
I think so.
Why we want to have these conversations, because we know that this stuff resonates with you guys too. A few other people said, "Hi girls, hi ladies." I can't see who it is. For some reason it shows it is anonymous right now, but good to have you guys here and tuning in from Facebook.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Seriously, we really we want to hear how this stuff resonates with you and kind of what your experience is with it. If you've had an experience where, you've gone to your vet or your doctor, or just generally speaking, how this resonates in your lives, because I know that we're not the only one who experienced.
Yeah, or if you felt like you had to, like Katie was saying at the start, if you didn't catch the start, she was saying how you feel like you have to hide some information when you go to the vet, right? And not say, oh, my pet is on raw food, or my pet doesn't take vaccinations, or my pet doesn't do, right? Because you don't want to have that beration, right? Is that a word, beration? You don't want to be berated, is what I was trying to say. I'm just inventing a new word. You don't want to get a scolding from the vet, and then the condition that you've gone in to have assessed or determined, right, be blamed on that thing. Oh, well, they've got sneezing because you feed them raw food. Clearly, they're allergic to raw food, and you have to, right? It's just stupid, but. Yeah. So if you've got stories like that as well, or on your own health, where you've been scolded or criticized for doing a protocol that falls outside of the allopathic model, and then share those with us, because it's we want to have a better understanding, but also support you and let you know you're not alone in that, because it's really common.
And just so you guys know, we read all of the Facebook comments and posts and all of that, so we're definitely listening to what you have to say, and we hear it because we've been there too. So going back to what we were talking about, we have a little bit, for folks who are listening, we have a little bit of an early kind of surprise announcement.
Your face. Katie's face, everybody.
So you guys know, if you don't know, we have a free workshop coming up in 2 days. Speaking of raw feeding and dental health, this is why it's on my mind, I guess, because we have Dr. Connor Brady coming on Thursday, which I'm super excited about. Last time we spoke, it was in our first summit, and at that point, I wasn't even feeding I call them my kids, but they're animals.
So kids.
I wasn't feeding my kids raw food at that point. It was lightly cooked, and he was pushing me a little bit, you should really try. And going back to that kind of fear that people experience, I definitely had some fear around that. That was almost a year ago at this point. And since then I've switched. And I definitely don't know him as well as you know him, Penny, but the vibe that I get from him is the same kind of fieriness that we have about just getting a bit worked up and telling it like it is, and having frustrations. And he's a huge voice in the raw feeding kind of world. He wrote Feeding Dogs, which is an incredible book, again, going back to the science of it. And he's part of Raw Pet Medics. And so he does all these things. Oh, do you have a copy there? Amazing. Love it. It's the raw feeding Bible. So yeah, he has some really great, someone said Connor's fabulous. Yeah, he's awesome. So join us on Thursday. Again, it's a free event. We are going to be doing more of these. We've been kind of putting our heads together, Penny, you and I, lately, and thinking about how can we bring more free information and resources to our community as our community continues to grow. And so these workshops are going to be pretty regular, and we're going to be kind of playing with the format, but we're going to be bringing in guest speakers. We're going to be doing more workshops, just the two of us together. So this is the first of many to come. So stay tuned. If you haven't registered, I can share the link for that. But you should have been getting emails about it. And then come live. If you can't come live, you can purchase the recording. But we are also giving folks who are in the Rejuvenate membership, the recording is just a part of their membership, just like a bonus.
Yeah, we said along the way that there would be secret surprises and extra bonuses and things like that. So guys, for those of you who are members, this is your first of the secret surprises. Your recording of the workshop is yours to keep.
Yeah. So for as long as you're in the membership, obviously you have access to all the other resources on there. I mean, this whole month we've been focusing on dental care. And then you'll have this additional workshop in. We're doing our live Q&A for our membership tomorrow morning. So we have all of that kind of coming together this month. But the kind of big announcement that I said I was going to get to like 5 minutes ago when I started talking was that we are going to rejuvenate the membership. So we only opened it once before. We opened it to founding members. Was that a month, 2 months ago? It's been a minute. 2 months ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we opened it to founding members 2 months ago. And we had a bunch of people join, and we were kind of just like figuring out what else is going to look like. How can we make it the best it can be? And now it's really flowing. Again, like you just said, Penny, we're kind of adding in our bonuses now. So if you guys want to get involved and the Rejuvenate membership sounds like something you're interested in, if you want to learn about gut health, what we've been talking about this month, that's all in there. Next month is a sneak preview. It's all focused on longevity. So we've got our masterclass, our podcast, our live Q&A, our Spark Guide, all the things. So we can share the link for that if you guys want to join and kind of get the best of both worlds, get the workshop and all of the other goodies.
Yeah, and if you do it this month, then you'll get, as we said, all the dental because this month is dental. As well as what's coming up with the deep dive into longevity specifically and the biomechanics of aging and stuff like that for your topic next month as well.
And we will be having a surprise workshop. I mean, it's not a surprise if I tell you about it now, but a surprise workshop next month as well. So that is coming up.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of keeping secrets, you're rubbish.
I'm the worst. I'm literally the worst. I'm always like, Penny, can we tell them? So surprise, that's coming up in a month. So anyway, let's see. We got a couple more comments. Yeah, some people said that they're in Raw Pet Medics. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Group. And Raw Pet Medics is free, right?
Yeah, it is. Every Tuesday UK time, 7 p.m. on Facebook, Raw Pet Medics. They then do a bit on the side after that for another 15 minutes. So if you're a Patreon supporter of them, which is an optional thing, if you are a Patreon supporter, then you get an extra 15, 20 minutes of insider information behind the scenes. You get access to the research papers, to any of the whatever they're creating as a bonus for that week. So Raw Pet Medics is awesome. If you're in the UK, it's 7 p.m. And just go to their Raw Pet Medics website, Facebook page. And literally, that's it. It's not even gated. You just click join and then turn up on Tuesday. And then you can hear Connor have a rant without taking a breath. He sometimes has this ability to speak out of with no air at all.
Oh, that's hilarious. Let's see. What else are people saying? Rachel said recordings are so appreciated as my work schedules are so crazy. Thank you, girls. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so the recordings are great if you can't make it live, but they're also really important for going back and re-listening, either because let's be real, these workshops are jam-packed. So sometimes it's good to just go back, in a month or so, re-listen, because you're going to absorb more. You'll already have more knowledge, and then you can absorb even more versus feeling like you're just drinking from a fire hose, oh my gosh, I'm drowning here. We don't want you to feel like that, because every little nugget is so precious and every little one can make such a big difference, but we just kind of implement a couple at a time. So that's why having the recordings is important. But then also, whenever we do these workshops, we always try to give kind of both sides of the equation. The one side is the protection and prevention side. So these are things you start doing now. And then also these are things you can do when there's issues, right? We did this when we did in Rejuvenate, when we did our gut health month. It was these are general strategies to support gut health, but also we know you're going to have GI upset. We know your pet's going to have GI upset at some point in your life because it just happens. So these are some strategies that you can utilize for that. And I'm sure we're going to do that in this upcoming workshop, the dental one as well, preventative and also kind of more.
100%.
Yeah. So if you have the recording too, you can go back when it's relevant, right? Like if you're in Rejuvenate and you're like, hey, I don't have any GI upset right now. Cool. I'll implement some of these like prevention, protection strategies. And then you're like, okay, my dog has crazy diarrhea. Like, what do I do? Oh, I have that resource. And then you don't have to kind of try to commit it all to memory the first time you listen to it. So yeah, recordings are so important. I go back and watch like recordings from lectures I've done like years ago just to keep it fresh. And I learn something new every time.
Every time. Yeah.
Jennifer said, yay, I highly recommend joining everyone. Yeah, for the Rejuvenate. Great. So glad you're enjoying it, Jennifer. Let us know what you like best. And then someone else said, I believe I'm in Rejuvenate, but how do I check? So if you're in Rejuvenate, when you go into the Pet and Parent Longevity Vault, where all of the recordings are, if you click on Rejuvenate, you're going to automatically have access to that. Just like if you were a VIP for any of the summits, it's the same portal. You'll like see it on there, and then you can click on the different things and see what you have access to. So Rejuvenate members will have that. They'll also have like access to the upcoming workshops. And then if you were Summit VIP, you'll have that. For people who are on our coaching, like our private group coaching, they have access to that. So you can see them all, but you only have access to the ones that you
are registered for.
And if you have any questions about it, you can always shoot us an email, hello@petandparentlongevity.com, and we can help you like get set up or check for you. But yeah, we'll be sharing the link to join Rejuvenate if you're excited about that. I know we are. And what else? Workshop on Thursday. If you guys are in Rejuvenate, we'll see you with the live Q&A tomorrow. You can submit your questions ahead of time.
Yeah, that's in your portal as well. So if you are a member, just go in. There'll be under this month's assets will be the spot to look at so scroll down until you get to the Q&A section, which is always week 4. And then there'll be a link there that you can just pop your question in, so we get that in advance and make sure that we can answer that live for you on air.
Again, so even if you can't come to the live Q&A, you can watch the recording and we'll try to get to your answer as well. So yeah, anyway, we went down a major rabbit hole here. But it all goes back to staying open-minded. It all goes back to having open dialogue, having conversations.
Being willing to learn, being willing to be humble, being willing to be wrong, being willing to be right, but to support someone else when they were wrong. Like there's so much grace to be had in these kind of dialogues. And I think as a general society now are too quick to throw that kindness and that grace out the window in an attempt to be right. Like there's just, you have to be right, whereas if you can be gracious, if you can be listening, if you can be patient, if you can be loving, can be kind, then you'll learn something. You'll support the other person. You'll strengthen your relationship because you've allowed trust to grow rather than to destroy it. So it's just, there's a win on every possible way, but it seems to be a bit of an art that's on the decline. So let's rehabilitate the art of kindness.
Someone asked if we could share the link for Rejuve. So I just shared it. It's joinrejuve.com, and you can see all the information and sign up for get signed up. So yeah, that's a really great place to leave it on, Penny. What did you say? The art of kindness? I already forgot what you said. The art of kindness?
Yeah, let's rehabilitate the art of kindness.
You always have these amazing one-liners. I always say, like, we need to keep, like, a little book of your one-liners.
I'll start with a pen and paper. I'll write it down.
That'll be our new tagline. Instead of live younger, longer together, it'll be let's rehabilitate the art of kindness. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. Okay, someone said
kindness is the key of everything we do. Like that's our core principle.
All right, someone's having trouble with the link. It's just join Rejuve, RUJUV.com. Joinrejuve.com. Let me know if you guys have trouble with that. Okay. We'll also go in and share it on Facebook right now since for some reason it's not coming through. Oh, it looks like it's only going through to YouTube. That's why. Guys, we're still figuring out all the logistics on these lives and where
we're checking these things.
Yeah, we're like, can we stream to Instagram? How do we do that? This is not what we study. We study
the science.
Longevity, and then we're like, Instagram stories. Like, what's a hashtag? No, we're not that bad. All right, guys, we will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to be coming on an hour later than we usually do, so around 10:30 Eastern instead of 9:30, because we have the Rejuve live Q&A scheduled at that time. So we'll see you guys here. We'll be ranting and raving as always. And
being kind and having a laugh too.
Yeah, and Penny will come up with some more good one-liners. If there's anything in particular that you guys like, stories you want to share, topics you're interested to hear our kind of thoughts on, edited thoughts on, feel free to let us know. We always get on here and we're like, what are we talking about today? I don't know. Let's just talk about whatever's on our mind. And then
we just speak from the heart.
So hopefully it resonates with you guys. All right. If you're still with us 35 minutes into this.
Yeah, wow, that went long.
Thank you. And we're going to go now so you can get on with your days. And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys.